So I've been thinking about. I'm thinking about like the GameCube Sonic games. I mean, technically they're multi-platform. They're the first multi-platform Sonic games. Shadow and Sonic Heroes. I mean, we can point out the bugginess of the PS2 Sonic Heroes version, but there's no point for doing that right now. But you know, I found it. I was comparing in my mind to this, right? Because I hear a lot of critique about the those multi-platform games. I usually call them GameCube games because it seems most people play them on GameCube. They seem most playable on GameCube, so you know. But what I was thinking about them is well, I need to explain this. I'm quite a fan of these games, and I'm not exactly sure if I could say it's because of nostalgia, because I don't think I'm actually one for nostalgia exactly. You know, not particularly. I would say. I mean, you could say I have nostalgia for a game like Ocarina of Time, but I'm not like a giant fan of Ocarina of Time. Not the biggest fan anyway. I think games I have nostalgia for. Mario Kart Double Dash. I don't know. I mean, I've heard some people say they hate Double Dash, which I don't get that. I absolutely love Double Dash. Favorite Mario Kart game to this day, still Mario Kart 8. Schmidt, 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 Schmidt. But I mean, I guess there's like Wind Waker as a Zelda game. Maybe I could say somewhat I have nostalgia bias for, but I love routing games. Wind Waker is an excellent game to route. Or the best Zelda game to route, honestly, without going through the pain of Majora's Mask, getting time codes for everything. But, you have Sonic Heroes and Shadow. They have very unique gameplay, because they have the same basic gameplay style. Only attacking, running through enemies, running through loops, all that. They have that in the game. But they have these gameplay gimmicks. You could say this is the first with Sonic gimmicks. Heroes, you have the whole multi-character thing that they have going, which is fine as a gameplay concept in my mind. I actually think it's great because it helps with strategy and complexity in the game, and at the same time, it has one gameplay style. So as a game design method, I think it's perfect. You know, gives proper complexity to combat, and yes, that means enemy health bars, whatever. Like, it's not like Heroes has any problem with stalling enemies. You can take out every enemy in the game very quickly, and especially if you have level ups. There's no problem with that. Shadow, the guns are the same type of thing. You can take out enemies very quickly without problem, so long as you have guns. So it encourages you to use the guns very well. And the Heroes encourages you to use your teammates, which is good. What's the point of putting in these gameplay elements if you don't even use them? So, what is good? What is good is that simple, one gameplay style, one method for the entire game, and that's how it works. That is good as a concept, but is it executed well? And in my mind, it is. And I've said this. This is something I find. Because this is really like the main reason I made this video. Is just the uniqueness of this. What I find with my like of Shadow and Sonic Heroes. Shadow will take a little bit longer to explain as to why I like that. I can make an entire video about that. I can make an hour-long video talking about Shadow itself, Heroes itself, I guess, all this stuff. But what I find is unique, what I find stands out about my take on the game compared to others' takes on the game, especially, regular critics who they aren't Sonic fans, committed Sonic fans, is for me, experience. I brought up nostalgia love before, and I said I don't think I probably have nostalgia for much games. I mean, I asked like Sonic 2, something like that. Like everyone loves Sonic 2. I don't think I don't, most of the first games I played right now I consider meh, or my opinions of them usually are around what other people's opinions of them are. So I don't think I'm really like a nostalgia biased person. I don't think I am really. But the only aspect of nostalgia bias which I may have, which isn't really tied to nostalgia, it's just tied to the nature of how I play the game, is experience. Because I think this is something when regarding Shadow and Heroes, I think this is something that kind of stands out to me and the way I experience it compared to other people. And this is commonly said, what I mean is that I can play Heroes and Shadow and have a fine time in terms of the gameplay. Completely fine time, don't die, get A ranks easily, all that. And a lot of people say, of course, they say, oh, the combat, well, not really the combat. The only critique of the combat is the health bars. The movement is what they're talking about. Too slippery, too stiff, in a Hero's case to an extent. Blah, blah, blah. And for me, I know how to move in the game, and I honestly find Shadow's movement better than Hero's. I'll say that. I find Shadow's movement better because I find controlling your momentum is easier, which some people seem to not think that. Shadow is more slippery, I guess, but he's less stiff, which is why I like his gameplay. It's also easy to cancel your momentum, to stop on a dime in Shadow. In Heroes, you have the occasional problem where you can't do that. Because Heroes, you have this mix of this weird momentum situation where sometimes it's good if you just press down and stop that way, which I see almost no one do when they play Heroes. Almost never do I see someone just press down and stop that way. And then the other way is to jump, cancel your momentum by jumping. Heroes keeps your momentum in a very weird way, and Shadow does too, but it's not as bad, I think. But I think Shadow people more hate as a concept, and they hate because they don't understand how to play the game. Because Shadow, you have the whole mission thing, right? You have missions, and with that, people don't understand how the missions work. They are misled. They get bored. For me, say whatever you want about me regarding this, but I've memorized the level design of Shadow, and I can get an A rank on any mission whenever I try. Besides maybe like Lost Impact for the whole alien thing. I usually miss like one alien. But right now, picturing it in my head, I can do it. Usually when I put the game down for a year, and then I come back, I might forget it a bit. But right now, played it recently, I can memorize the level design. Maybe that's just a me thing. Maybe that's just I can do that, but most people can't. And that definitely could be a possibility. But for me, right, because this is my opinion on it, why I enjoy it, right? I'm not saying, oh, you should enjoy it because I enjoy it for these reasons. I'm saying maybe some of these reasons you don't enjoy it don't always apply. Because a lot of people can't really formulate their own opinions when it comes to these things. They hear someone say, oh, these are the reasons it is good or bad, my opinion, and then they kind of try to formulate their views based on those concepts that they heard. And that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just trying to say my own experience. In response to others, of course, just spreading my opinion and all that. But for me, this is the key thing I've said in terms of Shadow and Sonic Heroes. And this is what I want to bring up in terms of game critique as a whole, which is that the more I learn about and the more experience I get with Sonic Heroes and Shadow, the more I enjoy them. I could say it with just Heroes, but it's the case for Shadow too, which is why I just needed to say it's both of them. And Shadow's its own case. Shadow's its own breed. Shadow's a very unique game. And I really need to make my own, a video just about that game, just so I can talk about that, and get my opinion on it out of the way, But for both those, that's what I feel. Because I can memorize the level design, and I can play properly in the game, and I enjoy the game. I've replayed Heroes many times. I replayed Heroes more than the adventure games, definitely. I replay Heroes like I replay the classic games. I just turn it on, play it. The structure is like a classic game. I just play it, beat it, love it. And I love the charm of the game. I can... We'll go on that in a second. But I mean, the people have their problems with the dub of the game, the voice acting. I think it's some of the best that's come out of the series, frankly. I think it's excellent. I should say, other than William Corkery as Tails, that's never meant to be. But Ryan Drummond, best performance of them. Ryan Drummond in Heroes. You listen to the voice he puts on now. If you ever seen like interviews of him now or since his leaving, his his abdication, not his abdication. He was basically forced out. Actually, he was actually quite angry at the moment where he was disallowed to continue his role as Sonic. But he puts on that Hero's voice because that's his refined Sonic voice, and I'm a fan of it. I'm a fan of his Hero's voice because it's his refined voice. Just listen to Sonic's clips in like the sound test or something. Good. I'm a fan. I'm happy. I'm good. He sat. He nails the sound for me, and for my money, yeah. Best Sonic is Hero Sonic. Best Sonic is Hero Sonic. It has been said. In terms of the graphics, we wouldn't even get on that. But this is really about the gameplay, right? This is really about the gameplay. And that was just to illustrate the context of it, and also to get past a point that a lot of people say, well, the voice acting is annoying. Barring William Corkery, yeah, disagree. Overall, I disagree. I think the voice acting is most refined in Heroes. I think it's very good. I think it's better than most of the forecast. The 4Kids stuff came after. Until late in the game for the 4Kids people, where they started doing better. And Jason Griffith in his best days, very good. And personally, I think Jason Griffith and Ryan Drummond are better, than modern William Craig Smith, Chris Redfield, Resident Evil 5. I don't remember his name. But in terms of it, what you have that I like about Heroes is its simple structure, but the gameplay itself. You have more strategy and combat than in like any other Sonic game. Combat, favorite of Sonic. Favorite combat in any Sonic game. Yes. And Shadow, you have enjoyable combat too. I shouldn't even need to talk about the combat because the combat's good. Excellent auto aim in Shadow, and the power formation I have a lot of fun with. I love doing those level 2 attacks, level 3 attacks, smashing the ground, and it makes these explosions, all over. Hit all those enemies. Thunder shoot is fun. Blah blah blah. I mean, really, I think the main problem people have is the length of the levels. More on that in a second, and the control again, which I've gone over the control, and I've said this is my key point regarding the control. And this is my key point regarding it that I see a lot of people who haven't played the game very much. They say the game basically fails because the control is too slippery or too awkward, which I can agree. I think that's the game's biggest flaw. The more you play it, though, the better you get at it. The more I have great fun with it. Now, this is where we get to the point because what I hear in response to that, I'll say this. I'll say my point. More experience you get, more enjoyable the game is for me. And you can have two responses in this case. You can have the kind of low IQ. Well, no, the controls suck, and you just have Stockholm syndrome. Or the high IQ response, which would be, but if you need to learn basic control as a mechanic, that's bad game design. Now here we go. Now this is a point. And I can give like examples as to my perspective on this. But here's what I think. A game requiring you to learn, to become more enjoyable, is not necessarily a bad game. And I think many people can agree with that. In terms of like competitive fighting games, for example, I've said Super Smash Bros. Melee played competitively is like the best game ever made, in my opinion. A game like Super Metroid requires you to learn things like that. A game like Final Fantasy V, I think would be a great example of that. Final Fantasy V, to a casual person, you might not enjoy it as much compared to other Final Fantasies. You probably could get into Final Fantasy VII better than you could Final Fantasy V. But does that mean Final Fantasy V is worse than 7 just because it's easier to get into 7? That's an advantage 7 has, but it doesn't mean it's better or worse. You need to count up the other elements. So in the case of Shadow and Heroes, if they require you, to get accustomed to the controls because the controls are unique, that doesn't mean the game is just bad because of that. And that also means for those playing it, they might not be experienced enough with it to fully see that. And I'm not saying, you can't play it, you're dumb, so that's why you don't like it. To an extent, that's kind of what I'm saying. But also to an extent, I am saying a game requiring you to put some time into it to get some skill does not make it bad. A game should not be, instantly. A game does not need to be instantly understandable to play to be good, and many people understand that in other cases. But for these cases, they do not. In these cases, they do not. And for Sonic, they seem to have different standards. I'm not even saying this to the adventure games, because the adventure games people have more of a problem with structure and level design and gameplay styles. But for these, it's only one gameplay style, and I don't hear much level design critiques, to be honest. Not in the case of Heroes or Shadow. It's mostly just control critiques, which I think the controls work fine when you have practice. And the thing is, when it comes to controls, you can get accustomed to controls. Something like bad level design, you can't exactly get accustomed to, right? That's just how the game is designed. Gameplay styles, same kind of thing. Which is why I think Heroes and Shadow actually have some merit over the adventure games to a degree. I think the adventure games are better. I think they're better. And that is in part due to control, due to the gameplay functions. But at the same time, there are gameplay styles in Adventure 1 that definitely are not as good as Heroes or Shadow, in my opinion. Big and Amy, definitely not as good. Knuckles treasure hunting in Adventure 2, I definitely don't have as much fun with that compared to Heroes or Shadow. And the mech shooting, I don't have as much fun as Heroes or Shadow. So in my mind, what's only comparable to the speed stages. Of course, in the case of Heroes and Shadow, the entire game is that one gameplay style. So you have that advantage. And I don't hear much critiques about the level design, so I don't even think I need to talk about that. But that was one thing I wanted to mention, which is a game taking skill, to enjoy is not bad. And you understand that in other cases, so it's kind of an inconsistent critique. I can honestly say the same thing for Sonic and the Secret Rings, but I'm not going to fence for that game on the same level. Because Sonic and the Secret Rings has bad design and many other elements. But in terms of control, I can play Sonic and the Secret Rings and comfortably play it. And I can kind of enjoy it. But its design in other areas means it's not getting my my back over here. I'm not giving it the same treatment. But I've played Heroes and Shadow many times. In the case of Shadow, I play certain pathways. I will basically write down my interpretation of a pathway of that story that it's telling, write that down, and then I'll play it out as a record, which is very interesting because it means every time I play Shadow, I'm playing it differently, going on a different route, and all that, which is very rare for me playing games because I usually play a game exactly as I've routed before, exactly the same way, which makes Shadow actually kind of a refreshing game for me to play. And again, I can play through Shadow comfortably. A lot of people can't, and I see their critiques when you can't. When you don't know the level design and the enemy placement so that you can get through those kill all the enemies missions comfortably, I see why you don't like it. But for me who does, that complaint no longer applies. Now I can say, for someone learning it, is that a problem? Yes. But if you can learn it, then it's not as much of a problem, and I have fun with it. I can have fun with Shadow in that regard, and I do. Heroes, I don't think it requires as much memorization to a degree. I mean, it kind of requires memorization for certain problem to collision detection, is the main thing I would say. But in the case of that, when you have experience with it, I have plenty of fun with it. I have plenty of fun with it. And requiring that experience, in my mind, is comparable to requiring certain knowledge to play other games, right? Various old RPGs will require that from you. And people, that's not as much of a problem. It's not as much of a problem when you require a guide to play The Legend of Zelda, and the game is basically unplayable without it. But if you require some practice to be good at the game, then that is a horribly designed game. Interesting. I'm not even saying, oh, you're wrong, you're right. I'm just saying what I think, why I think it, and what that suggests, right? I'm just trying to give you ideas. I'm just trying to give you ideas, really, by saying this. And then the other thing would be, besides that, the basic gameplay, which is like the core of what I'm saying. The other point I had that I was thinking of was, oh god, am I forgetting it? I shouldn't forget it. I should take notes for this. Okay. The comparison is between yes, that's my point. Now the point is games requiring skill from you, in my mind, is not necessarily separable from games requiring knowledge from you, things you need to study. Which for me, I have no problem with either of those things. Now it depends on the patience you have, right? Depends on the patience you have. You might be impatient. You might say, oh well, if the game's controls aren't enough for me to be able to continue, then I'll just quit, and that's okay. That's okay. But other similarly impatient people will drop an RPG because they don't have the patience for that, and you consider that a little bit different. So, I mean, that's really the core ideas I was trying to put forth to you here. I'm not trying to necessarily convince you Shadow or Heroes aren't as bad as you think, if you think they're bad. But I am trying to defend myself on why I like them, and why other people might like them, and what that might mean in terms of game criticism. So I thought that was interesting, and if you think that is interesting, write me up a comment, write me up a question if you have any idea what I could ponder on, any clue like that. Feel free to do that for those watching. Besides that, to those who did watch, thank you very much, and hope to be posting more videos. Thank you. Goodbye.